suddenly they can't stand each other, and you have cases of divorce, you have cases of physical abuse, verbal abuse, emotional abuse. And studies across the board during the quarantine showed that when families were forced to be together, these cases began to spike in an upward position. Al-hikmatu dalatul mu'min. Wisdom is something that a believer should always seek out wherever he may find it. Whenever we read these statistics, which are completely done by secular organizations, they're not done by Muslims, we as Muslims should derive some wisdom from it. And subhanAllah, in my field of work, where we get these reports of domestic violence cases sometimes, I sometimes hear the attitude of Muslims where they say, oh subhanAllah, that is the way of the disbelievers. They always have family problems. They don't respect family, they don't value that kind of institution. But subhanAllah, a lot of these cases are from Muslims. And subhanAllah, I was actually planning, but I decided better. I was going to ask, if you have experienced some family issues in your life, raise your hand, but I realized there's no point to that because I know everybody would raise their hand. It makes no difference whether you're a Muslim or not. And yes, it is true, Islam focuses, and the Rasul ﷺ used to encourage us to value the family and to do silat al-rahim, to tie the ties of kinship. The Rasul ﷺ, when he famously entered Medina, he said, Ya ayyuhan nas, afshu salam wa at'imu ta'am wa silu al-arham. He gave the advice, he said, afshu salam, give the salam, wa at'imu ta'am, and feed the hungry, wa silu al-arham, and tie the ties of kinship. He increased the bonds of families. وَصَلُّوا بِاللَّيْلِ وَالنَّاسُ نِيَامٌ تَدْخُلُوا الْجَنَّةَ بِسَلَامٍ. If you do these things, you'll enter Jannah easily. Now subhanAllah, if we have this attitude that on the one hand, Islam should cure the problem of family issues and marital issues, but on the other hand, we know deep down inside that every single one of us has experienced family issues, and if you're going to say no, you're kidding yourself. How do we reconcile this? SubhanAllah, I was attending a lecture by Shaykh Ubaidullah Evans, and he said something very, very profound that stumped me when he first said it. He said, the Quran, the book of Allah, is a book about dysfunctional families. And when he said that, that was such a bold statement, and I was very surprised by this because I had never heard anyone say this before. But it only took 2 minutes of thinking or 2 minutes of pondering, of reflection, to realize that he had a point. The Quran details every sort of dysfunctional relationship possible in your life. Think about it for a second. A dysfunctional relationship between a father and a son. Azar and Ibrahim alayhi salam. Ibrahim refused to enter the family business. Azar threatened to kill his son. On the flip side, Nuh alayhi salam, advising, begging his son to please come back to the right path, and his son refusing. Dysfunctional family relationship between siblings. Who committed the first murder in this world? Qabil and Habil, blood brothers. The first death, forget murder, the first death on this planet was a murder between two brothers. The brothers of Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf was a prophet, his father was a prophet, his grandfather was a prophet. And his brothers later on became the prophets too. They threw their son in a well. The original plan was to kill him. A dysfunctional relationship between a husband and a wife. Lut and Nuh alayhi salam, both of them had wives that were not believers, that betrayed them. The Quran says they betrayed their husbands. And on the flip side, Asiyah, one of the women of Jannah, she had the most abusive husband in the history of humanity. Her husband tortured her to death. And we can keep going on and on and on, and you will find, subhanAllah, that every relationship in the Quran had some kind of issue, had some kind of dysfunction in it. But you would say, subhanAllah, okay, in all of these relationships, there was a good person and there was a bad person. Musa and Harun, both of them were prophets. You want to know, search the entire Quran. the only interaction in the entire Quran between Musa and Harun is Musa grabbing Harun by his beard and his hair and shouting at him. Brothers, both prophets. What does this teach us, subhanAllah? I'm going to keep going even. Somebody might say, okay, but these were the previous prophets, but not the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He was different. You clearly don't know anything about the seerah then. The Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam got into so many disputes with his wives that surahs were revealed over it. There was one incident where the Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam became so fed up with our mothers that he packed his bag and he went and slept in the masjid. He said, I don't want to be with my wives. And he stayed like that. Some ulama say he stayed like that for a month. So what does this teach us, subhanAllah?